Welcome to Energy Hack 2026, organized by Solar Austin.
We're going to have lots of time to get to know each other a little bit more, or a lot more, over the next 48 hours. For now, I'm going to go talk for a little bit to give you all context about why we're here, and then we'll obviously commingle more as we go on, as I mentioned. Is that cool? Awesome. I guess we could start with pat yourself on the back for coming. Yay! Cool. So, good evening, everyone. I'm David from Solar Austin. I'm the program coordinator. And welcome to Energy Hack 2026. We're going to just do a little bit of context setting. So you are sitting in Children's Haven. This space was invented in the 50s and 60s to help the children of this neighborhood become better citizens. And Solar Austin is the organizing host of this event, which is where I work. And Finn is also president of the board of Solar Austin. Hi. And we're here because it's available and meaningful, and also Solar Austin installed solar on this roof a few years ago. So everything you're doing this weekend is powered by the sun. So for housekeeping, I put the Wi-Fi login on the table in a few places. So if you need that, it's there. And in general, throughout the weekend, we'll use Luma for updates like food and parking and the things that I've been using it for. And then we'll use Slack for conversations. And the bathrooms are behind me here. I'll show you where to get the Slack link if you don't have it. Food is also behind me. And I'm working on planning the food, so if you haven't yet, if you could fill out the Google form for the food, like which meals you plan to be here for, that way we can buy the appropriate amount of food and not too much, or not too little, that would be great. It's obviously hot outside and it's a long weekend, so let's be sure to drink a lot of water. Who's got their water? 1, 2. All right, we're going to get everybody up and get some water in half an hour. We are taking photos and videos. If you do not want to be in the video or photo, please let us know. Or sit on the other side of the room. And regarding intellectual property, anything that you build this weekend is of course yours, unless you choose to give it to the community, like put it in GitHub, or give it to our Google Drive, or however else we decide to collect information. And you can use any tech stack you want. We do have some ideas for you if you want to hear about what we have been using in this process over the last few months. And then the last thing is, where Finn is sitting, there is a Mac Mini. And so one of the tasks this weekend, if you all want to do it, is to set up a local LLM on here so that we can run the AI software development on the solar power that's on top of the building. And it already has a lot of the tools on there, but I hadn't it set up fully. But if anybody has experience with that and they want to do it, that's there for you. So our sponsors are, I'm going to say Janana. Who's friends with Janana? Anyone? Okay, good. So you don't know if I'm saying it right or not. That's okay. So he had this idea along with me and helped fund the weekend. So if you see him this weekend or on Slack or LinkedIn or whatever, say thank you. And also he works at Salesforce, and they're going to match his donation. So that's awesome. And then Solar Austin is also funded by a lot of other awesome organizations in town, including HEB and Orsted. Kristen is here from Orsted. Hi, Kristen. Good to see you. And we also have Imperial Star and Big Sun and many organizations that help sponsor our work. And I loved country music a long time before I moved to Texas, and this singer called Aaron Tippin has a song where it's actually called this: "You've got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything." So hopefully that's motivational and exciting for you for being here, for standing up for cleaner air and more affordable and reliable electricity, or whatever motivates you. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit also. So let's get into it. So in 2024, City Council passed the Austin Resource Generation and Climate Protection Plan. And in the plan, it has these words: continued progress towards clear commitment to an industry-leading goal of zero emissions by 2035. This is on page 2 of the plan. On page 3, there's a little caveat that says carbon-free as a percentage of load. Raise your hand if you know what that means. A couple of you. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So now we're going to try to figure out, for the rest of us, what does carbon-free as a percentage of load mean? And so what you're going to see as soon as it loads up here is a video from City Council. Well, and I did practice this earlier, and it's not loading. So I have a backup plan. I have this file locally on my computer. Let me just bring it up for a second. So what you'll see is a City Council woman interviewing. Nope, that's not the one I want. Interviewing Lisa Martin, who's the deputy or the chief operating officer of Boston Energy. So that's this one. This one? No, not that one. This one. Okay, so here we go.
I wanted you to take a minute to help us understand what you mean by carbon-free as 100% of our load. So carbon-free, right, 100% carbon-free as a percentage of load essentially creates the assurance that we are covering our customers' energy needs with 100% carbon-free generation. Does that mean we have no carbon generating resources? Yes, it intends to mean that in 2035. Which is intends to mean that. Like, we all know that this is a goal that we're setting that we want to get to, and we may undershoot a little or whatever, but what is intends to mean that. Right, and you just hit on why I was talking. So carbon free is carbon free, right? It means that there's no carbon, right? And our goal is to do that by 2035. The reason the percentage of load language is in there is simply to again assure that we are covering our entire customers' needs with that carbon-free energy, as opposed to having less than that and just all of that we have is carbon-free, and then relying on the ERCOT market, which we know is not clean. So yes, it's the supply and demand side of the equation. Okay, thank you. I also wanted to clarify,
Okay, did that clear it up for you?
It intended to.
Right. Okay, so now we have just 2 more videos to watch here quickly. In case you haven't ever been to City Council, I would highly recommend going. It's a pretty cool experience. So this is now I clicked on the right one. No, that's not the right one. That's the next one. 1 second. Okay, so this is Mayor Kirk Watson. Now, speaking also with Lisa, who you just saw in the last video. So this is kind of the next step of evolution of the plan.
What do you need in order to meet the goal of being in position for action and being in the future? What needs to happen?
We're finding that new peakers have a very long lead time. Some quoted the earliest availability in 2029. Other manufacturers aren't even accepting orders until 2030. All manufacturers are requiring milestone payments of 10 to 20% upfront, which equates anywhere between $5 to $15 million.
So, I'd like to see us be in a position to give them the authority they need to be able to do what needs to be done, so we can stay with our plan.
Okay, so remember the plan is 0 emissions by 2035. That's what the document is that we all voted on and agreed to. And the mayor has a plan to get in the peaker queue on November 18th, 2025. Keep that in your mind. I'll just have one more video and then we'll move on to solutions. So how do you get in the peaker queue? It's this little thing called a secret vote.
Thank you, members. Those are all the speakers on item number 7.
So this is how that works.
City Council will now go into a closed session pursuant to section 551071 of the Government Code to discuss legal issues related to item number 82, which is to consider competitive matters related to Austin Energy generation, operation, and resources, deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate property. Certain public power utility competitive matters under 551086 of the Government Code, and real property matters under section 551072 of the Government Code. I'm also announcing that pursuant to section 551072 and 086, as I just said, the City Council will consider utility competitive matters and deliberate real property matters related to Austin Energy generation, operation, and resources, and deliberation of the purchase, exchange, lease, and value of real estate property. Without objection, the City Council will now go into an closed executive session on the items announced. It is 3:55 p.m. Once we have completed the executive session, we will come back out into open session. 3:55, we're going into closed executive session. Good evening, everybody. I'll call the Austin City Council. We're already we're back out of the closed session. It is 5:19 p.m. We're out of closed session. In closed session, we discuss legal issues, consider utility competitive matters, and deliberate real property matters related to item number 82. The resolution considered by the council passed.
That's it. With those words, we just spent $1 billion on a new gas plant. For a little context, groups like Solar Austin and others around the city have been working for about 30 years to try to get away from gas plants. And just now we're 10 years away from it, and they're starting the process over again. So it's kind of interesting. Go ahead, Christian, you can go first.
Yeah, I was kind of curious, because definitely in the local government side of things, I'm not as familiar with this system. You might be, but how binding is this? Like, is it like we're definitely getting that gas meter, or like is there a possible way out of it? Or I'm just kind of curious.
Okay, so one of the games we're going to play here this weekend is Catch the Mic. Ready? Okay, go ahead. Say that again.
Oh, can you hear me? Is this working?
Yeah, go ahead. Well, it's not going to come out of the speaker, but it's further recording on the.
Sure. So yeah, basically what I was asking is maybe from a legal perspective, like how legally binding is this new gas peaker that's being proposed, or it's in the queue, or like is there any way out of it? I guess.
Right. So in general, I'm not a lawyer either. The kind of mindset of the advocacy groups today is something like it'll take 3 or 4 years to actually implement. So we have a little window there to try to reverse things. And the precedent for that is what has happened recently with the Cap and Stitch program. That was a big capital project that the city had invested a lot of money into for engineering and studies and stuff, and I guess then also canceled. So it's possible that might also happen here. No guarantee. The reason that we're meeting is to see if we can build up enough public support for alternate options and communicate that to the public at large and also to Austin Energy and to City Council. If we don't do that in the next 48 hours, we're probably going to get a new peaker plant. I'm kidding. No pressure, no pressure. I'm kidding. But my point is that it's awesome that we're here, and I'm grateful, and hopefully we can at least set kind of a little bit of a foundation or a space for that to occur. And it exists already for sure, right? Hundreds of people, or at least dozens of people, testified many times at City Council on this topic. But I think what we really need in order for it to change is thousands of people, right? That's what's going to make a difference. Yeah, go ahead.
So, hi, I'm Jeff. I don't live in Austin.
Hey, Jeff.
So, I'm not tracking this closely as you are.
Yeah.
Plus, whatever I'd say, they would ignore.
Yeah.
So, to me, it seems like, based on what was presented, if they've already made a payment to the company For the blades or for
Turbines, yeah, gas
the turbines?
Uh-huh.
It's not clear if that's option money or if that's commitment money.
Right.
And if it's commitment money, then to back out, you probably suffered a tremendous expense. I mean, maybe you carry around $5 million, but I sure don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. The 5 to 15 million is a deposit, and we don't get it back if we back out. That's what Lisa said in other versions of that video that we watched a short section, but in more of that she talks about that. Yep.
So I think because they've done that, you have to make an even more convincing argument.
Correct. And as far as I know, they haven't done it yet. But who knows? They're keeping everything in secret, so we don't know.
So when it's more appropriate, I wanted to ask about the energy mix, but it's probably not the best time now.
Yeah, I'm going to do another 15 minutes of context setting, and then we'll have a big discussion. That'll be great. Go ahead, Scott.
Good. Just to clarify, the mayor's comments about going into closed session.
Yes.
He seemed to be talking about real estate.
Yes.
I didn't hear him say that there was going to be a commitment to buy the Pico plant.
Right.
Just real estate as a place to potentially put a Pico plant. Is that?
It's an interesting strategy, isn't it? This is the wording from the resolution that was passed. The exact wording. And it does not say gas peaker plant or anything like that in the wording.
Right.
So the question is this what they're talking about?
Well, I'm just wondering if they've actually committed to buying a gas peaker plant or if they're just trying to lay the groundwork for one.
Right. What we know is two things, and Jonathan, I'll let you address it in a second. What we know is two things. After the secret vote, they admitted to the newspapers that this was about the peaker plant and about the price of $1 billion. So that's what we know. The other thing that we know is, if you caught it in the very beginning, Mayor Watson said item number 7. And item number 7, which I don't have here, but it was all about public discussion about the gas plant. And he referenced item number 7, preparing for item number 82. So that's what we know so far. Yeah. Go ahead, Jonathan.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so earlier today, or a couple of days ago, I watched a video which primarily highlighted the development of non-environmentally friendly infrastructures, primarily data centers, gas turbines, etc. And in the state of Louisiana, I do recall that there were some non-disclosure agreements that were filed to the elected officials, and apparently the people living within the community weren't really informed of this. So in terms of how closed or open are those talks? Because what I'm trying to figure out is, were there any non-disclosure agreements given to the Austin elected officials in terms of the matters of real estate or a gas turbine?
Right. That's a great question. Let's write that down. And in fact, I was hoping that we could, I didn't say this, but I do want to have a place where we write all of our questions, and maybe that's Slack, if you don't mind writing your questions there, or however you're catching them now. Later we'll kind of try to capture them all together. It's an excellent point, Jonathan. What I would encourage us to do is finish this part of the event, and then I'll think about what are the questions and what are the data sources and how could we learn and how could we essentially double check or triple check what we're hearing from other parties, right? That's essentially the goal of this weekend. And the first thing that comes to mind for me is permit data is public. So when we start to see permit construction being applied for, if we have a real-time API into the permit from the city and we have an AI doing a cron job every day checking that, we'll know as soon as they call for a permit for the construction, right? That might not be for 3 years. Hopefully what's going to happen, likely what's going to happen sooner is they're going to pay for the things, and I don't know if we'll know. The only way I think to know is to send in a request for information under the public free information request form. If we do that on a regular basis, that might be a way to know. But fundamentally what's happening here is there's a Texas state law that allows city council to do things in secret if they think it's for the betterment of the community. So they may or may not ever make it public. Yeah. Let me just finish up there, and then we'll continue with the conversation, okay?
Well, I mean, the point I was just going to quickly make is
Yeah.
maybe you can also track the city expenditure, the budget,
Right.
see where the money's going.
Right. So we do have the 2027 proposed budget. I have that on my computer. We can look at it this weekend. It includes $600 million that were not in last year's budget. So there's a little clue. Yeah. So this is the resource generation plan, or a document that was created as a step before the plan. And you can see here it's September 2024. And the reason I show this one is because they did use a third party, Ascend Analytics, to create these 4 portfolios to say, what would it be like if we had a mix of things that would actually get us to zero emissions by 2035? And you can see here that portfolio B, well, it says A, B, and D are all carbon-free by 2035. But the next page says portfolio B is the only one that has no NOx. So there's a distinction between carbon emissions and nitrous oxide emissions. And what we've committed to is no carbon, but we haven't committed to no NOx. Just so everybody knows. So plan portfolio B, which is this portfolio, is zero emissions by 2035. And I'm showing that to you for 2 reasons. One, to say it exists and it's possible, and it's kind of the direction we're headed as a group of people who care. And the second thing is it's complicated, right? You have all these different generation sources that all have to feed into this mix of things that are happening and balancing the load and generation in real time until we have batteries. So the other thing to note about this plan, and we noted this when it came out, is that it has a bunch of assumptions that were not up to date then and certainly not up to date now. For example, 28,000 acres for solar panels when we know we have lots of roofs we could put solar panels on. So my hope is for all of us to create a living document that can be updated monthly or quarterly with the prices of the peakers or prices of batteries, and we don't wait 2 or 3 years in between a national assessment about what's possible. We have a more real-time dynamic iteration cycle. And I can show you what that looks like because we've built it, but that's going to be in a few more slides. So I just want to give you a little bit more context for people who aren't as familiar with power generation. This slide is about reliability and ERCOT. So ERCOT is the organization that manages the part of the grid that we live in. And ERCOT says, if we want the power, you don't get it. So that's why we're out of power during Uri here in Austin. It wasn't because our gas plants weren't working. It's because our gas plants were working, but ERCOT said send the power somewhere else. So a new gas plant will not solve for the Uri problem because ERCOT has power over us. However, if we did batteries and solar and virtual power plants, those are local within our distribution network, and ERCOT can't tell us what to do with them. Pretty cool, right? So there's other kind of benefits. I don't want to go into all of them at once right now, but you can see this is all red, meaning bad, right? And there's other options that are better. So here's another way to look at similar data. This is about local economic development and job creation. So the gas peaker plants use big companies that come into town for a few years and leave, and they take all the money with them, right? And then we're constantly paying for gas to a company that's not Boston-based, right? So obviously if we did local batteries or solar and storage or virtual power plants, the opposite is true. It's all local and stays local, except for obviously maybe battery manufacturing, but that's coming more and more to Texas every year. And I'll give you guys all access to this so you can look at it on your own also another time. And then this is the last one, and it looks very similar to the other ones. The difference is I've included here closed-loop geothermal and also small nuclear. And so if we can get a closed-loop geothermal plant in Austin, I think we can avoid the gas plant. I don't think there's anything else that will do that, but I think that will do it. And Austin Energy already has a contract for a geothermal pilot project. So it's just a matter of, like, can we get that to happen within our, what we call load zone. So in general, this is what Austin Energy's job is to balance supply and demand, as I mentioned earlier, in real time. Now, it's not really in real time because we have batteries to shift time, right? But on the left-hand side, you have all these strategies, and then on the right-hand side, a few different strategies. what I wanted to show you is, like, as we think about the options, what is the right mix of these things? And also, some of them require the customers to participate, right? If we're going to put solar on the roof, the customer has to agree to that. And that is done a lot in Austin, but it's not traditionally how utilities operate. Utilities are like, I'm going to build a plant, I'm in charge of it, that's how I operate, right? And then there's these other things that are super important to understand: demand response and energy efficiency. And GETS is a version of software to enhance the grid capacity. So if you haven't heard of these things, you're going to have a weekend of like learning all these things, and it's pretty awesome. And now I'm going to go ahead and show something that Corey and I have been working on for a long time, along with Al, which is a model of the Austin grid in real time for all these variables that we just talked about. So what you see up here is the 10-year resource mix. So each of these colors is a different resource, kind of like you saw on that slide from Ascend. And then down here, this is just for one 24-hour period, how at risk are we at not getting electricity to our loads. And so when Austin Energy says reliability risk hours, that's what they mean is risk hours. So you see right here between 4 and 6 p.m. in August, that's when the most load is, and that's when the most risk is. So how can we get rid of that risk? Well, we can increase the amount of local, I'm going to do the batteries later because I need to add some generation. So if I add a geothermal plant, you can see immediately the risk goes away. That's not true of batteries. Who knows the difference between a geothermal plant and a battery? Yes?
So, most likely you can run the geothermal plant 24/7.
Exactly.
And the battery will only store energy for
That's
a
right.
finite amount of time, and then they degrade over their lifetime.
Right. So we say firm base load power for nuclear and gas and geothermal. Firm base load 24/7 power. Also, we use the word dispatchable. So this is something that's pretty, I think, fantastic and amazing. And I'm just showing you this idea so you can have a sense of what we built already. The people in this room know how to build this. We can build other things like this that are cool. We could add to this if we want over the weekend. This is all in GitHub, right? It can be forked and we can add to it, right, Corey? Yeah. The other cool thing that's on here is we can actually click this and say, show me portfolio B. So this is that exact portfolio that was in the Exam Analytics, and you can look at it. And the bottom line is that we're trying to get to low cost, which you can see here, and the amount of carbon free, and reserve margin, and the risk hours, right? And if we take out the gas, you can see that the carbon free goes up, right? But the reserve margin goes down. So it's just some kind of combination of things that's the optimal thing. And it's
Learn more at solaraustin.org.